So when you ask your favorite chatbot to write an email for you or maybe generate a wild image, it feels like magic, right? It's just so effortless, clean, and futuristic. But what if I told you that behind that super simple interface, there's a whole other story? A story about coal plants being kept alive, public drinking water being diverted, and a hidden global workforce. Okay, let's get into it.
Because according to some really extensive reporting from investigative journalist Karen Hao, the real story of AI isn't really about code and algorithms. Nope. It's about human choices, it's about immense power, and it's about a shocking hidden price. So, the big question we're asking today is, what is your chatbot really hiding?
First up, let's just talk about the physical cost. Because the AI industry is, and there's no other way to say this, one of the most resource-hungry operations on the entire planet.
And the scale of this is, well, it's staggering. Get this. According to McKinsey, just to power the AI boom, we might have to add the equivalent of 1.2 times the UK's entire annual energy consumption to the global grid. And that's just in the next 5 years. That massive amount of power has to come from somewhere, right?
And this is what that actually looks like in the real world. We're talking about coal plants that were supposed to be retired, now getting their lives extended just to feed these data centers. In Tennessee, one of Elon Musk's supercomputers is reportedly being powered by unlicensed methane gas turbines, polluting a local community. And then there's the water. These servers need a ton of fresh water to stay cool, so public drinking water is literally being diverted from residents, a lot of the time in places that are already dealing with droughts.
So how did we even get here? I mean, was this massive consumption the only way to build AI? And the answer is a hard no. It was a choice that's rooted in a very specific ideology. To really understand that choice, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. See, the term artificial intelligence, it wasn't a scientific classification. As the guy who invented it, John McCarthy, later admitted, it was a marketing term. He coined it back in 1956 specifically, in his own words, to get money. And right there, that kind of set the stage for AI to be whatever its most powerful boosters wanted it to be. So here's the crucial part. The AI industry had options. The journalist Karen Hao explains it with this great analogy. Think of AI like you think of transportation. You've got efficient options, right, like bicycles and public transit. Those would be smaller, more targeted AI methods. But the industry giants, they chose the equivalent of using rockets for their daily commute. This is what's called the scaling paradigm. This belief that you can get to intelligence just by making the models bigger. More data, more computing power. It's incredibly inefficient, but, and this is a huge but, it gives them one massive advantage. It creates a monopoly, because only a handful of companies on Earth can actually afford the rockets. And the company that basically fired the starting pistol on this resource-guzzling rocket race is, you guessed it, OpenAI. But where they came from might actually surprise you. Yeah, OpenAI didn't start out as this corporate giant. It was actually launched back in 2015 as a nonprofit, a transparent kind of anti-Google lab that was meant to develop AI safely for all of humanity. But within about a year, the leadership totally embraced that scaling ideology, and that shifted their biggest need from finding top talent to getting massive amounts of capital. A power struggle broke out between co-founders Elon Musk and Sam Altman. Altman won, and the company pretty quickly morphed into the hyper-capitalistic, secretive organization that it is today. And central to that whole transformation is the CEO, Sam Altman. His old mentor, Paul Graham, once said this about him. You could parachute him into an island full of cannibals and come back in 5 years and he'd be the king. He's described as this master persuader, a visionary leader who's just incredibly good at getting people, investors, governments, you name it, to give him exactly what he needs to build his vision. But Altman's vision, and really the whole scaling approach, it depends on way more than just computers and capital. It requires a vast, invisible, and often exploited human workforce. You see, to stop models like ChatGPT from just spewing out hateful, toxic, and illegal stuff, companies have to build these safety filters. And to do that, they have to teach the AI what that awful content looks like. And that means hiring people, a lot of them in the global south, to sift through and label the absolute worst of humanity, scraped from the darkest corners of the internet. And the human toll is just devastating. Hao interviewed a Kenyan worker named Moin who is contracted by OpenAI. His job was to label graphic descriptions of violence and child sexual abuse. The work left him completely traumatized. His personality totally changed, and he couldn't even explain to his family why he was so different. Then one day, he came home, and his wife and stepdaughter had left. The final text from his wife just said, "I don't know the man you've become anymore."
And the thing is, this isn't some accident. It's a strategy. Hao calls it the crisis playbook. AI companies literally scout the globe for populations in crisis, like Venezuelan refugees. They find these highly educated workers who are desperate for any kind of income, and then they pit them against each other to complete these tiny micro-tasks for pennies. The result? These workers become tethered to their computers 24/7, just terrified to miss a task that might pop up and disappear in seconds.
So, when you put all this together, the resource extraction, the ideology that justifies it, the global labor exploitation, a really clear pattern starts to emerge, and it becomes obvious this isn't just business as usual.
This all builds to a really powerful analogy, seeing these AI giants as the new East India Company. Think about it. Just like those old colonial corporations, they're acquiring global resources. Only it's not spices and textiles, it's data, energy, water, and labor. They influence governments to get what they want, they exploit local populations, and it's all being helped along by a nation-state empire that sees them as a key tool for global influence.
So here's the bottom line. According to Hao's reporting, the biggest threat these companies pose isn't some rogue AI from the movies. No, it's the very real erosion of democracy that's happening today. By hijacking local laws, by bypassing environmental regulations, and by treating entire populations as resources to be extracted, they are undermining the very democratic processes that are supposed to protect all of us.
Now look, I know this all sounds incredibly bleak. It's heavy stuff. But this story absolutely does not end there, because at every single stage of this supply chain, people are starting to fight back.
Artists and writers are suing, saying, hey, that's our data, that's our intellectual property. In Chile, water activists have successfully stalled a Google data center for 5 years now. You have teachers, employees, and students forming their own committees to decide for themselves how and even if AI should be used in their jobs and in their schools. And hey, even small acts like when you reject all those tracking cookies on websites, that is a form of reclaiming power over the very resources these empires need to survive.
Because this is the ultimate takeaway here. The future of AI is not inevitable. It isn't some force of nature. It is the product of human choices. And if a small group of people in Silicon Valley made the choices that brought us to this point, well, that means the rest of us can start making different choices. Choices that can lead us somewhere else entirely. The future isn't written yet. The only question is, who should get to write it?